Well, it's March, everybody, and I hereby declare March to be Green Day month, even though the month is already half over, because I'm terrible at planning. Since this band is so near and dear to my heart, I thought it would be appropriate to dedicate a month out of the year to them, to release a couple videos about them. And yes, March is already half over, so this will spill into April. Green Day are one of the biggest punk bands out there. They've been around for a long time, and they're probably the band most responsible for putting and keeping punk in mainstream knowledge, or at least since the Sex Pistols broke up. So let's begin the celebration with a hotly contested issue: how should you get into Green Day? There have been many a Reddit thread about it, but I don't think I've ever seen someone make a video with their opinion on how to get into Green Day, so here I am presenting all 100% just my opinion. The difficulty comes in because Green Day have had several sounds throughout their career, so in order to get into them on the right foot, it's probably best to find the albums that reflect the most about Green Day in one package while still being good, but not being so good that they blow the experience. Now, from 1990 to the present day, Green Day have released 12 studio albums, those being 39 Smooth, Kerplunk, Dookie, Insomniac, Nimrod, Warning, American Idiot, 21st Century Breakdown, Uno, Dos, Tre, and Revolution Radio, along with scrapped songs and singles, B-sides, compilation Shenanigans, and a demo compilation, Demolicious. I've selected one single album which I feel is the embodiment of everything in Green Day's sound. It's an album with a lot of diversity that brushes on all of their sounds in a single go, and then going off of the songs you like from that album, I've separated the rest of them into tiers where you can follow through and hopefully listen through everything that's up your alley before you spread out more. But to start, in my opinion, the most definitively Green Day album is Nimrod from 1997. With its incredibly tight album flow, crunchy but still rather clean production, and emphasis on speed, Nimrod is, in my opinion, one of the best pop-punk albums ever written. In 1996, after writing 4 pop-punk albums, Green Day decided to put everything they had into one more pop-punk album before they would go out and experiment and diversify into new things. So they put everything they had into Nimrod. I think it definitely shows. It has catchy and clean and somewhat radio-friendly pop-punk songs like Nice Guys Finish Last and The Grouch, and a cleaner, more slow-song version of pop-punk and Redundant. It has throwbacks to their older sounds with that sort of surf-punk, hazy punk with Uptight, Last Ride In, Jinx, Hushinka, Scattered. It has some absolute firecracker punk songs like Platypus, Take Back, and Reject. And it has the beginnings of their more experimental side, which they would pursue in later albums like Hitchin' a Ride, Walking Alone, King for a Day. At 49 minutes and 18 songs, Nimrod packs as much punk as it can, and as much diversity and change into an album as it can in the runtime it allows itself. It covers a lot of ground in a little bit of time, and no song is a waste of its spot on the track list. Of course, I necessitate that you listen through Nimrod in one sitting and giving it your entire focus, not just playing it in the background. And after you listen to Nimrod to a time or 2 or 3, you should pick up on songs that you do like and songs you don't like. And that's where this exercise really begins. If you liked Uptight, Last Ride In, Hushinka, Scattered, or Nice Guys Finish Last the most, I recommend you start with Green Day's older material. These songs are very much the carryover from the previous eras of Green Day in this album's sound. I recommend starting with Kerplunk. Released on Tiny Lookout Records in 1991, Kerplunk grew to be an underground hit, and is probably the fan favorite from so-called old-school Green Day fans. Kerplunk is very rough around the edges, with hazy sound and not perfect harmony between the instrumentalists, but it absolutely rocks that old surf-punk-influenced old late 80s, early 90s pop-punk sound. Think Adolescence, Queers, early Blink-182. Though of course still with Green Day's very own distinct spin on it. After that, I recommend you go on to Dookie, the more polished and professional older brother of Kerplunk. After Dookie, 39 Smooth, their first album, might be worth a try. I recommend listening to 39 Smooth's songs, then 1000 Hours EPs and Slappy EP songs, which are all bundled together in one compilation now. Just look on Wikipedia or something to get a hold of which songs were originally in which release, since listening to all 22 or so songs at once is a little much. If you liked Nice Guys Finish Last, The Grouch, Redundant, Good Riddance the most, I recommend you start with what I call the pop-punk tier. Demolicious was a compilation album of demos from the albums Uno, Dos, and Tre. It's a throwback to Green Day's older sounds written after they'd done a lot of experimentation. It was an attempt to kind of get back in touch with their roots while still experimenting just a little bit. It has throwbacks to a classic mid and late 90s and early 2000s style pop-punk. Then if you like Demolicious and like the harder stuff, the less mastered stuff, I recommend you give Dookie a try. And if you like Demolicious but felt like the mastering needed to be better, it needed to sound more professional or modern or clean, I recommend you listen to Uno. And if you like Uno, I recommend you go on and listen to Tre. And after all of these, that you go back and listen to American Idiot, because it has elements of pop-punk in it, even though that's not the entire album, much like Nimrod. Next, if you liked Platypus, Jinx, Take Back, Reject, or Prosthetic Head the most, I recommend what I call the punk tier. Insomniac is easily and obviously the starting choice for this. Insomniac was very much a reaction to Dookie's unexpected success. While the label and a lot of people probably would have liked it if they would have gone poppier, they dug into their punk roots and made their most punk, most hardcore, most ferocious record. Now it's still pop punk, or maybe it dips into skate punk. Yet with its breakneck speed, fun percussion, and really, really good bass, it's almost enough to be a throwback to stuff like Husker Du. It's ferocious and incredible. After that, even though the entire album isn't as breakneck, you might enjoy Shenanigans. It has quite a few slower songs, a few poppier songs. But songs like I Wanna Be on TV, Haha You're Dead, Suffragette, and Desensitized should be right up your alley. Poppier stuff like Scumbag, Sick of Me, Doo Da Da has really raw and crappy mastering that might keep it up your alley and enjoyable, interesting. Unfortunately, Green Day doesn't have too much stuff in the way of harder punk. American Idiot definitely has high notes in there. Check out the song St. Jimmy, Homecoming. And you might have some mileage with Dose if you can put up with high production mastering. Finally, if you liked Hitchin' a Ride, Last Ride In, Walking Alone, or King for a Day the most, or if you like experimental or unique music in general, you will appreciate the experimental tier. The obvious place to start is with Warning, their first departure from regular pop punk and into experimental waters. Warning is kind of a folk punk album. It's a very experimental and unique album and stands out as a very individual piece of work. For a lot of people who are fans of genres beyond just punk, this tends to be one of their favorite albums. After that, I recommend Revolution Radio. It has lots of homages to classic rock and a lot of experimentation with newer trends in punk and music, compiling all the different types of sounds into sort of a new one. It doesn't always succeed, but it's ambitious and enjoyable. And next, American Idiot is a cannonball splash in the water juggernaut of a pop-punk rock opera. It has lots of weird stuff going on, from 5-act, 10-minute tracks to lots of genre hopping and experimenting with influences. It is definitely Green Day's most ambitious record and is a culmination of their era of experimenting. This is a lot of people's favorite Green Day album, and I put it so far in the bottom of these tiers because while I think it's really good, it's also a very dangerous album to listen to first. It's incredibly good, but you can't expect this amount of performance from Green Day all the time. And lastly, for this tier, if you want something more on the raw, ratty side, I recommend Shenanigans for its experimental tracks, and if you want something on the polished side, I recommend 21st Century Breakdown. 21st Century Breakdown is another rock opera, but with much less of a punk streak, and leans so much into their classic rock influences that it loses a lot of Green Day's punk edge. It's a lot of people's favorite album, but it has lots of slow songs, and is a definite change of pace from the rest of Green Day's discography. Well, that's every album Green Day has released up to this point, tucked neatly into tiers after you start with Nimrod. I recommend after you go through one tier, if you liked it, then just go through the next tier with the next songs that you liked. Green Day have confirmed they have new music coming, so once you plow through all of these, you can wait with us anxiously as they work on and eventually release this new music. And if you are new to Green Day and this is your introduction, or if you looked this up because you've only recently started getting into Green Day, I welcome you to the Green Day community and wish you luck with your journey. And that's the video. If you liked it, leave a like. If you disliked it, leave a dislike. I have links to social media where you can contact me in the description, and I hope I get to rant to you in a future video.